Our theme for this international conference is strengthening research in the new normal. How do we strengthen research in the new normal? Let me give you practical tips and practices culled from my 3 decades of experience, both as a researcher and as a research manager of our research center. First is that we need to find out the reason for doing research. Is it going to answer for accreditation? Is it going to transform the local community in which the school is established? Or is it intended for international publications? Because in the Philippines, the main driver for research is accreditation. I suggest at this point in time that we do research for purposes of world ranking initiatives, meaning the results of research will be very useful as the school or the university prepares for inclusion in the world ranking initiatives. Second, we need also to calibrate the functions of our research center. If you take a look at most of the research centers, there are 3 gray areas that usually are weak in terms of implementation. One is that there is no subdivision or subunit in the research center intended only for research utilization. And so millions of cost of research go to waste simply because there is no unit, there is no one who is in charge for the utilization of this research. The purpose of this subunit is to make sure that the recommendations are tracked and that the results of the study will be forwarded and communicated to the intended beneficiaries for action. The second one has to do with research dissemination or advocacy. No one is in charge of that. And if no one is in charge for research advocacy in the research center, so we cannot expect that every research output that is finished will take the center stage so that the wider community and the external public will be able to know the resources available. The third one is research citation. You see, if no one is in charge of citation of research, then we would not know which studies have already been cited, who are the authors that have already been cited, and who are citing our research papers, and how can this trigger some more fundamental dynamics that should ensue as a result of getting cited. Another practical tip that I can give you today has to do with making sure that the scope of research is expanded to get out from the confines of certain sections of the university, certain sections of the local area, in order to derive co-authorship and collaboration with external entities, particularly foreign researchers. For example, if there could be a policy that those faculty members who have already reached the assistant or the associate or the professorial status, when they do research, that they should have foreign counterparts. Because a study that is generated by 3 to 5 researchers representing 3 or 5 countries will have wider scope, firmer conclusions, and greater acceptance for publication. Now, we need also to find out whether the capabilities of our teachers match the research direction of the university. For example, if the research direction for the university is R&D, research and development, or science and technology, and then most of the research skills of the faculty are intended only for surveys and descriptive methods, then there is a mismatch between what the university intends to achieve and what the researchers can only do. For example, if the university research director happens to be a PhD in agronomy, and then most of the faculty members who are doing research are using people as human subjects for the research, then there is a mismatch between the leadership of the research center and the capabilities of the teachers. We also need to take a look at a very good balance that should be healthy between basic research and applied research. You see, basic research is intended precisely to generate new knowledge, to push the frontiers of learning, and not necessarily because we intend to solve an immediate current problem. When we don't have this as a division in the university research program, then the larger majority of the research, if not 100%, would be applied research. So there will be a deficit in the ability of the university to create new methodologies, new research content, new information, because the majority of the researches done are merely applications of what have already been discovered before. Applications for what have been discovered before are necessary, but that does not mean that we are not going to produce basic research. And when we speak of applied research, what is usually missing is quality assurance. What is meant by this? When a teacher or a researcher conceptualizes a research topic because he is preparing for his proposal to be presented in the in-house review, it is very important on his part that the university comes to assist him so that consultants in the area of content and the area of methods and in the area of publication will assist him as he designs the research. For example, if there is a component for mm, quantitative methodology, then he needs a PhD or an MS in statistics to assist him for that. And if there is a component for mixed methods, somebody who is an expert in mixed methods needs to assist him for that. And of course, this entails cost. So therefore, the university needs to invest in the hiring or the eliciting of expert resources to assist the core faculty as they design the research proposal. And precisely in that process, there is a need for a well-organized literature review as a foundation for the research proposal. So another expert on systematic review or meta-analysis or meta-synthesis needs to be provided to the researcher so that the theoretical and the research literature background will be firmly established at the beginning of the investigation. I understand that all universities give incentives or rewards for researchers that when they publish in Scopus, for example, or Clarivate Analytics, they are given rewards in the range of 20,000 to 90,000. But that is only when the research has already been completed. I believe that the investment of the school should begin with the proposal stage, where we will be able to see whether the study will have a greater chance to be published by getting accepted in high-impact journals. There is also seemingly a lack of utilization of research by the school community. I want to intimately share with you one significant information that the journals of my university, the one that I previously worked with, were already noticed by scientists in the Philippines and abroad because we passed the journal accreditation system evaluation of CHED, and that we were already deposited in the databases of ProQuest, EBSCOhost, Syngate Gale, and the like. But the larger majority of our faculty and the students were not able to access our content. Why? Because there is a lack of capability on their part to know how to find our content from the World Wide Web. So to arrest the problem, we made sure that the digital copies of our journals are sent to our alumni, our current students, and our thesis writers so that they will be able to utilize and cite our university-generated journals. That is a very important point. And more importantly, that our faculty will be tasked to integrate the publications of our research journals in their respective syllabi so that the content of the published studies will now be discussed in the classes, and that will drive the dissemination and utilization and citation of our research in the university. I hope you will greatly consider this suggestion. Most of our research outputs in journals are merely deposited in the school website. How can we strengthen our research in the new normal if that case is always what is pervading? Why? Because if you only deposit your journal in the school website, then there will be less opportunity for the worldwide community to access your content. You need to send your content for evaluation and eventually acceptance by the Philippine Electronic Journals. It is distributed by CA Logic in the Philippines, the only depository for research journals in the country today, so that your content will now be distributed in the more than 400 colleges, universities, public and private libraries, so that the larger majority of the Filipino consumers of scientific information will be able to access your content. And not only that, you also need to submit your journal publication to the Directory of Open Access Journals, or DOAJ, in Europe in order for you to be included in the whitelist of journals that have responsible publishing practices. Because open access journals, when submitted to Scopus usually requires that the journal be indexed first by the Directory of Open Access Journals, because that is the first filter for quality. Now, one major area that we need to strengthen our research in the new normal is in the involvement of the stakeholders, from the conceptualization of the study to the data collection and the data analysis and the firming up of the recommendations. Why is this necessary? Because the researcher is not the implementer of his results. The researcher is not the implementer of his results. So there is a need for the researcher to identify who are his external stakeholders. And when he's able to identify that, already conducts the preliminary interviews to map out the problem, the perceptions of the stakeholder on the problem, and then how are they affected? What do you think they want to happen so that their lives can become better, that is in the conceptualization stage. So there is an organic basis on why the study needs to be conducted because it is solving a social problem. And then in the data collection, the researchers will also be involved, particularly in the fact that they are going to give their perceptions and data to the researcher, which are significant in the data collection process. And when the data will now be processed into tables or graphs or charts, then you would need your external stakeholders to take a look first at your data and infuse their perceptions, which would help you analyze and interpret the results of your study. Once this is done, then you set the stage, which is the last part, on the recommendations of the study. The recommendations of the study needs to have involvement of the stakeholders, particularly on prioritizing what needs to be done first, and also on their part that the stakeholders will be able to provide a commitment that they are going to implement the results of the study. And finally, that the stakeholders are actually oriented that after 6 months of the publication of the study, there will be a tracer component, a tracer study on the nature and extent of utilization of the recommendations. And 6 months after that, which is completely about 12 months, there will be a sequel study to find out if there has already been attempts to institutionalize some of the recommendations derived from the study. And when evidences are submitted to the school or to the university research center that utilization has taken place, then by any means, the research center could give a certificate of merit, particularly on a research utilization award. Because certainly there is also a need to recognize the efforts of the stakeholders to utilize the results of the study. So in this respect, when the results of the study have intended beneficiaries who will utilize the study, then even if the study is not cited yet, then we can very well say that the purpose of the study has already been initially achieved because the intended beneficiaries were able to benefit from such studies. Another way to strengthen research in the new normal is to calibrate our ethics protocol. You see, 99% of colleges and universities do not have accredited research ethics review committees. When I say accredited, it means that our research ethics review committee has been submitted for evaluation by the Philippine Health Research Ethics Board, or FREB, and that you are given at least the initial level 1 accreditation, because there is also level 2 and level 3 and also level 4. If you search the web and look for the list for accredited research ethics committees in the Philippines, you will be able to find out that there's just less than 50, or even just about 20 plus of the ethics committees that are accredited, which means to say that there are issues on the soundness of the methodology that will take care of protecting the welfare, okay, of the respondents, that they are free from harm and that they are free from undue advantage by unscrupulous people, and that you are assuring the respondents that there is confidentiality of information and anonymity of their identity so that they cannot be tracked and be in danger simply because of their participation in the research that you have conducted. So I wish you will take heed that you need to take a more critical and serious look at the status of your research ethics program. Okay. When we speak of strengthening research in the new normal, we also mean here calibrating our research methodology. If you make an analysis, a review of studies conducted in the last 10 years as to the predominant type of research methods used, then you will be surprised that almost 100% of them simply use survey, utilizing questionnaires, sprinkling of few interviews, and then sprinkling of few focus group discussions. And that most of the statistical techniques that were applied were tests of differences, tests of association, and tests of relationship. So sort of we are boxed into this kind of methods which have been prevalent in the last 75 years. You see? And how can we improve research in the new normal and even strengthen it if we get stuck in these methodologies? We need to partner these methodologies with other complementary methodologies. So what are they? If you have quantitative method in a particular study, you can also partner that with a qualitative research method. So that brings to the fore the need for mixed methods. Mixed methods should be taught starting from the senior high, then going up to college, master's, and PhD. So if you have quantitative method plus qualitative method, and then if your qualitative method is grounded theory, in the next study, you can have quantitative method plus phenomenology. So you can vary the different types of qualitative research in partnership with the different types of quantitative techniques because each method has inherent limitations. The limitation for a quantitative methodology is that it lacks depth. And the limitation of a qualitative methodology is that it lacks generalizability because of very few samples. So if you have generalizability on the quantitative method and you have depth on your qualitative method, then voila, that is a very good formula for research. So if there can be an opportunity where mixed methods will be taught either in trainings or as part of the content for the teaching of research in all levels, then that will be very, very good. In fact, you can even explore the publication of your study in a journal exclusive for mixed methods. Yes, one way to find the journal of your choice, given a particular content and method, is to find the journal of a particular methodology. For example, there are journals that cater only to experimental designs. There are journals that cater only to qualitative designs. And there are journals that cater only to mixed methods designs. So you can be strengthened with the research in the new normal if you are able to calibrate your methodology towards something that provides more depth and better generalizability. At this point, allow me to explore some other areas that we can strengthen our research in the new normal. And one of these is the application of technology. For example, when we distribute our instruments today, we cannot anymore do that by printed copies of the questionnaire. We can do that by using Zoom or Google Meet or FaceTime or Skype. And the use of Google Forms allow us to immediately process the data because the respondents will submit their answers directly to a database. And when you open the database, you already have their tables, charts, depending on what you want. So that certainly helps. Okay. And if there is an opportunity for you to do face-to-face contact with respondents because your respondents cannot navigate the technology, then it is very important that in the method section, you indicate there very specific provisions on your observance or compliance to research ethics protocol, such as the wearing of PPEs and masks and face shields, both on your part as a researcher and on the other part of the respondent to protect both of you in the interview and the data collection process. That is certainly important. What are the other technologies that we can think of? Okay, for example, if you need to know how to detect copy paste in your paper, then you can explore the more expensive Turnitin or the cheaper one, which is called Keytext. You can explore the web and go to keytext.com, and there you will be able to find a software that will identify portions that are copied and the source of the copied material all in the same lane, in the same page, so that you would immediately know which portions to rewrite or rephrase or paraphrase so that you will not be guilty of similarity. The term is key text. Another one is Quillbot. Now, Quillbot is a software for last resort. After all your efforts to rephrase, check it with Quillbot, those portions that were flagged down as copied from portions in the World Wide Web sources. Do not use Quillbot for the entire manuscript because that will change the linguistic structure of your writing. Use Quillbot only for portions that you have already rephrased but still contains a lot of um, similarity. That is the important thing there. Another technology that I'd like to share to you today is transcription technology. Now, when you make interviews through the web, for example, using your laptop, you can activate during your interview process software such as Otter AI, OTTER, and the other one is TEMI, TEMI. And after your interview, it records, and just 3 minutes to a maximum of 5, it will be able to generate the digital transcript of the entire interview process. So instead of you doing the transcription manually, the software can do that for you in 3 to 5 minutes with an accuracy rate ranging from 95% to 97. There is no software that guarantees 100%. But the catch here is that the interview has to be conducted in English because the software cannot interpret uh, other languages other than English. So these softwares are very important because this will speed up your work, at the same time increase the calibration of your quality assurance so that your study will be free from errors that are actually preventable because you can correct them prior to submission to the funding agencies or to the research journals of your choice. So on the whole, I have given you practical tips on how to strengthen your research in the new normal. I think I would like to end up by saying that we need to understand and recognize at this point that the lockdowns, the quarantines offer us plenty of opportunities to do two kinds of research. Okay, the usual, which is complete, and then the other, which is review of related literature. You can publish research just by scouring the literature from the web and formatting your sources for review articles. You know, if you write and publish a research review, the probability that you can be cited in the next 24 months after your study is available online is 85%. But if you publish results of your research, the probability that you can be cited is less than 20%. That is one. So I encourage you to explore. Nowadays, when people ask me what kind of studies can be considered thesis without going to the field and collecting data, I said, you can do a research review of the literature. That is a thesis. And that is not an easy thesis. That is a difficult thesis. I know of one university in the Philippines, the University of the Immaculate Conception in Davao City, in which they allow master's thesis and PhD thesis, dissertations to use research review, okay, as their thesis or dissertation. And that is good because the situation requires for it. So I know the time is limited. If you want to have more explanation from me, my email is sinarohapos@gmail.com and my phone number is 0917-70-35283. At this point, I'd like to express my deep gratitude to the president of President Ramon Magsaysay State University, Dr. Villalubos Roy, and Dr. Maniago for bridging me to be part of the conference today and tomorrow. Mabuhay, keep safe, protect yourself, keep grounded, and more importantly, move forward, stay focused, do research, and be productive, even in the difficult conditions in the new normal. Thank you so much.